All right, good evening. A very important day tomorrow, the 18th of April 2023. The Supreme Court of India will be hearing final arguments in a clutch of petitions that stand before that five-judge bench of the Supreme Court, asking the court to legalize and legally recognize same-sex marriage in India. It will be a massive leap in the rights and in creating a more equal world for members of the LGBTQI community, who will then be able to marry, they will be able to will their property to each other, they will be able to raise children, adopt children, have joint bank accounts, have a say in each other's medical treatment, things that heterosexual couples take completely for granted, which our same-sex brothers and sisters do not have access to. All of that could change if the Supreme Court tomorrow decides, the Supreme Court, after hearing the arguments tomorrow, decides in favor of same-sex marriage in India. But we've had a new development today, which is the central government has filed another statement before the court, an affidavit, and it says a few things. Let me take you through what the central government has said. First of all, it has said that the idea of same-sex marriage is an urban and elitist view, and it does not represent rural, semi-rural populations. And when making laws or changing laws, the government has to take into consideration the rural population and the semi-urban population as well, and they don't feel this way. And it says it has to take into mind all religious dominations. It's brought in religion and said the Hindu Marriage Act and the Muslim Marriage Act necessarily need a heterosexual biological male and female in order for the contract or the agreement of marriage to take place at all. And so same-sex couples will not actually, it will not work. That's not tenable. It's also, the government has asked the court to refrain from changing the laws in this fashion. And it has sort of reminded the court that it is Parliament that needs to make these laws, because it can take into consideration all the various groups of people it represents and make laws accordingly. In the meantime, the NCPCR, and this is important, this is the National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights in India, has also filed an intervening application before the Supreme Court, raising concerns about what will happen to children if they're being raised by same-sex couples. It's basically said that as per the Juvenile Justice Act in India, a single man is not allowed to adopt a female child, a baby girl. And what will happen if a same-sex couple of two men then adopt a baby girl? That goes against that particular law. It is also said that giving children to be raised by people who are already facing challenges in society will be like experimenting with those children, and it's not in the interest of those children to be treated as subjects of an experiment. It is also raised, and this is a really odd one, right? It is said that children being raised by same-sex parents will have limited exposure to gender roles, and so their understanding of gender roles and gender identity will be limited. Another point is that the Delhi Commission for the Protection of Child Rights has supported the adoption of children by same-sex couples. So these are all of the things that have happened right now. We know that the Indian Psychiatric Society has supported same-sex couples as well. And we have a representative joining us right now. And I'm really glad we got this guest on board today. So Professor Dr. Amrit Pattojoshi is one of the people who worked on that statement, which I thought was brilliantly put together, where it dealt with mental health issues, and how actually legalizing same-sex marriage will reduce the mental health issues within the community and actually create a more equal world. The Professor Doctor is the president of the Indian Psychiatric Society, Odisha State Branch. He's the Honorable Secretary, IPS East Zone. He joins us right now. He's also a teacher. And that's really important because he deals with young people on a regular basis. Doc, thank you so much for joining me on this conversation. I'm going to actually ask you to rebut the arguments that the government has placed before the court. The first argument is that this idea of same-sex couples wanting to get married is elitist and urban and does not represent people from rural and semi-urban India. Do you agree with that? What is
First of all, the government has to come out with statistics. Have they done a survey on this? Have they found out the percentages? To talk of something which is absolutely, which term is normal in terms of the way they feel. Calling it elitist, calling it urbanist is a little tough thing to accept. Why? I'll tell you. My arguments are based on certain things. Now, when do people come out? If they are, if they think they are of this different gender, or if they are homosexuals. It is a transition period, maybe from the age of 14, 15, around 25, 30. And this is the stage when people are in colleges, universities, new jobs, new places. And if you look at the whole concept of India, we have a rural, we have semi-urban and urban. Now, most of the job opportunities are in the urban areas. Most of the universities are centered in the urban areas. And the whole education system is based on the urban areas, not on the rural areas. So even if you talk it as an urbanist culture, and if you look at people coming out, people, accepting it, and people, come talking with everybody, it's more in terms of the Insta, more in terms of WhatsApp, Facebook. If you look at the newer trends, that is mainly used by the urban population, if you call them urban population. But now times have also changed. People are sitting in their homes in a small village and making reels. So calling them urbanist, elitist is wrong, because even if you're urban, even if you're elite, you should have access to equal rights. That's what I tell.
Yes.
It's not just that the rural people should have their rights. So basing is giving a statement not based on facts, not based on science, just based on hearsay is unacceptable.
You had argued in your statement that recognizing same-sex marriage legally will actually reduce the mental health issues in society. Could you tell us how?
The basic thing is, if you look at laws basically play an essential role in shaping attitudes. Attitudes will change the stigma, the discrimination associated with it. The minority stress of being a minority. India is a place where a lot of just compare Article 377. The moment the Supreme Court gave the decision, a general sense of well-being was there in this community. And recently we did, a survey was done. I was going through that study where more than around 5,900 people were talked. After the change of the LGBTQ, what was the reaction? It was not just the LGBTQ population, it was the other population also which spoke that 90% of the people told that the mental health of most of them improved. Anxiety, the stress, the depression, suicidality, and substance abuse. If you look at the 5 common things which this population suffer from, there was an improvement. People started discussing all these things.
The central government has also called upon religion, saying that within the Hindu Marriage Act and within the Muslim Marriage Act, this sort of thing is not recognized. What is your response to that?
Well, I'll speak as an individual capacity. The Muslim marriage law was also changed. Nikah was, the whole system, talaq and all was, people.
Yes. Triple talaq was banned. Yes.
Banned. Yes. So a lot of things has happened. You're calling for uniformity. You cannot hold on to certain things for when it fulfills the way you think, and reject it when you think it is not according to your thought processes. So laws should be universal. It should bring in equality, and I think that's where we should look at.
I want to ask you about a couple of other things. We've had the NCPCR, which is the National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights, put out a statement saying that allowing adoption of same-sex couples will endanger children. And this is a really serious thing for the Commission of Child Rights to actually say. Now, one of their arguments is that a single man in our country right now, as per the Juvenile Justice Act, is not allowed to adopt a female child or a girl baby. How can we allow same-sex couples to adopt girl children? That's in violation of that act. Do you believe that there is a risk there?
Now we'll talk it in the other way. Why? I'll tell you. A single male is not allowed to adopt a female child, but a single male is allowed to adopt a male child.
Male baby, yes.
So if there's a couple of 2 males are there together who are married, they can easily adopt a male child. Let's accept that first of all. Let's not look at the other aspect. People are unsafe everywhere. I have seen males are unsafe when a female is there. But first let us accept that they can. This is not a reason why you will not allow somebody to adopt. If you are allowing a single parent to adopt, why can't two people of the same sex cannot adopt a child? So the whole argument does not stay. Now, whether they can adopt a male child or a female child should be looked up afterwards. With time, with survey, with research, we can move on to this. Safety, unsafety. I have seen people where somebody is unsafe in their own biological parents also. The abuse, the assault, the sexual abuse. We see a lot of things. Let us not get into all those gory details and things like that. But if somebody, now we see a lot of abuse in orphanages. You see a lot of abuses in orphanages. So a caring, a loving, a person who is giving security to a child, is it better, or keeping a child in a care with a caretaker, 20, 30 child who are abused repeatedly? That is important. I'm not telling that orphanages are there, but things happen. Things happen everywhere. It is our duty to create laws, to give the safety network and make ways that if something like this happens, it gets reported, noticed, caught, and punished as soon as possible.
The other one more argument placed before the court by the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights is that, and this even I will laugh at, it says children raised by same-sex parents will have limited exposure to the traditional gender roles, and this will impact their understanding of gender roles and gender identity, and this will limit their overall personality growth. Effectively saying that if there is a child being raised by two women or two men, they will just not understand the other gender that is missing from that equation. And so their entire upbringing will be flawed in some way. What is your response to that, Doc?
Now, I'll give you an example. Faye. A couple is married and the husband stays in Dubai. He's a poor man, he used to work in Dubai. His wife and his mother are staying in the village. He has two sons. Now, will you allow the son to stay with the mother and grandmother or not? You just tell me. Will it mean that he will start? We should not confuse gender identity with sexual orientation. Now, we're getting two different things together. They're both different things. So, how will it impact? Or impact? Society is not just one or two people. There are a lot of people involved in the society, and most of us live in a society where we are associated with each other. We are attached with each other. Parents come, grandparents come, uncles are there, friends are there. A lot of people go in shaping, and gender identity. You cannot force somebody to we cannot force anybody to change the gender or influence anybody. Gender identity is a sense of identity which a child gets. So no amount of examples beyond or outside the world can influence them. So that's something which should not be discussed also.
We have a couple of questions that have come in from our audience who's watching right now. Hemant Kumar Pradhan has said, why does the government not consider other research papers where same-sex parents have been shown to be capable as good parents and give a good life to that child? And you referred to this in the conversation in the chat we were having before we went live. You said there's a lot of research that shows that same-sex couples are capable, stable, loving parents. Is that true?
Absolutely. If you look at our statement, the whole Indian Psychiatric Society, the position statement was not based on opinions, fiction, what we believed in. It was based on science. A lot of work has gone into this paper, this position statement. And we had a whole executive council along with the office bearers and a lot of people who worked on it giving their inputs. A lot of meta-analysis were taken into consideration. A lot of papers, every paper was discussed threadbare. And then we came out with this is a statement based only on science. And again, I want to reiterate, this is what is science. Science is what actually it is, not what I think it is. So research has been done and by very, very influential people. And you cannot tell that these data has been fixed or, something has been done. These are all international papers. Just because in India, we don't have laws which have, with marriage laws, we cannot do a paper on this. But we have done a survey that, which is with us. So 90% of people are in favor of this. That yes, same-sex marriages should be allowed. A lot of people have congratulated me. A lot of people have come and told to the IPS, you have done a great job. In public forum, they tell, same-sex marriage not. But privately, they come and tell us, yes, this is what it should be.
So my question to you is this. There are those who believe that marriage as an institution is the foundation on which society is built. And if we change that foundation, then all of society will have chaos and it will collapse. And this is a Western concept of same-sex marriage that India is now being forced to accept.
I always tell that chaos brings order in the world. There has to be chaos to bring order, and that's very important. Whenever you need to make changes, whenever you need to make wholesome thought changes in the thought processes, there will be people won't. People think that what is happening is the right thing, but sometimes we need to make people think. And I think the 2018 judgment was a landmark judgment in that sense. Suddenly people started accepting. It was less like a on-off switch button, but marriage is a little more tougher thing. But what will happen is that it will save a lot of marriages actually. Many people are forced to marry people of the opposite sex when they don't want to. that destroys two families. And if they have a kid, the kid is much more stigmatized, much more discriminated. They have much more severe mental illness. But if you have people who the most important thing is communication. If you hide things, they become more bigger. If you communicate at the appropriate stages in their life, if you tell them about their roles, the way things are, the people accept. We think the society does not accept, but we are the society. Once we start accepting things, people around us, because there are a lot of people who are sitting on the fence. They want to measure which way the swing is moving. They move along with it. So if many of the people talk the right things, most of them will follow them. That's the most important thing. And I think that we need to create that atmosphere. We need to create that wave that will make the people to rethink that what they have been thinking through these ages might not be have been the correct things. So that's what we need to do that. And I think you are doing a great job there.
Do you believe that if the Supreme Court in its wisdom makes this decision over the next few days, the trans community will also have the opportunity to come forward and to ask for what is rightfully theirs in terms of the support, in terms of the recognition that they need?
Absolutely. The sense of the courts will come into place now. What they want, so somewhere they will also feel better. They will also feel taken care of. They need to be taken care of. They are important. If you look at a state like Odisha, it's a small state. We are very, very, very transgender friendly. There are a lot of reservations. They have been given jobs. You go to police stations, you will be amazed. There are places where the trans community might have a different, areas where they are helped, looked after. So, whole in all, the policy of inclusion is very important.
Mm.
The exclusive publicity should come to inclusion. It should not be that the elitist wants this, so this is happening. No, nothing like that. If they want it and there is no harm in anybody, and if it comes naturally, it's not a matter of only choice. We need to accept them. We need to include them. We are all together in it. Just because we think differently, that does not make us different in any sense.
We may be different, but we're certainly equal in the eyes of the law. And I suppose that is what the marriage equality case is about, that we may have different preferences or different sexual orientation, but at the end of the day, our constitution tells us that each one of us is equal before the law, which means that as a heterosexual person, if I have the right to get married, I have the right to leave property or share property and hold joint property with my spouse. We can adopt children. We can have joint bank accounts. We can make decisions on each other's health front. There's no reason why same-sex couples should not enjoy those same rights. That is the marriage equality question that the Supreme Court is now, in its wisdom, its 5-judge bench is going to make that decision over the next couple of days. Tomorrow, the final arguments being placed before that 5-judge bench will be live streamed by the Supreme Court, which means you can watch it at home. We'll also be putting up live updates as well, so you can track that with us. We think this is a really, really big deal. India is standing at the cusp of the possibility of great levels of equality, and I do hope that that actually does come true. I don't normally put out my opinion, but in this matter, I'm making it very clear where my opinion stands. I do believe that same-sex couples should get the same rights as everybody else, because we are all equal before the law. Doc, thank you so much for spending time with us this evening. It was a pleasure to chat with you, and I do hope that we can talk more, hopefully, if the judgment goes in the favor of equality, then that will be an excellent thing to sort of read together as well, because no doubt it will be an interesting judgment that comes out of that 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court. Professor Dr. Amrit Pattojoshi joining us right now, who has broken this down for us piece by piece, argument by argument. Now it's up to the Supreme Court. Fingers crossed from all of us. Thank you for watching.